All right. Okay.
You did have a good grade.
All right. So. All right. Howdy. I was 12 years old and my family and I went to go watch the Lego Batman movie, which has one of the greatest soundtracks of all time. But from that point on, I was enthralled by the world of Batman, and today I will be sharing you a brief history of Batman and how his character has evolved through the years. He has many names: the Dark Knight, the Cape Crusader, Vengeance, to name a few. So we're just gonna dive right in to the 1930s. So in 1939, the first detective comic was published, the Chemical Syndicate. And then as we go into the 60s, who better to start off with than the iconic Batman himself, Adam West. Now, the show itself was made in 1966. It was a huge success, and it was more of a comedic side of what Batman is. And it was a show for kids, a bit unserious, and it basically showed children the difference between good and evil. And so it was a very simple way of looking at such a character, and of course it had that poor orphan tragic backstory, but that's what created him to be the humanitarian that he was portrayed as. And the character development of Bruce Wayne was very unproblematic, a little bit underdeveloped compared to the 80s comics that portrayed him as more than just being a crime fighter, which leads us into the 1980s. Now we encounter the comics coming into their style, coming into their modern day looks, the suits, the art, the gorgeous backdrops, and we find Batman Year One in 1988, and this really changed the way that Bruce Wayne carries himself. So in the public eye, he is very much this flamboyant billionaire that does unveilings for Wayne Enterprises. And so in the private eye, he is seen as this person, specifically by reporters and publicists, as a very self-absorbed rich boy who truly got over his parents' death, loves to party all day and all night. But behind this facade is the Batman. The child that saw his parents murdered in the alleyway that night was not the same one who walked away. Bruce Wayne, son of Thomas and Martha Wayne, was killed that night figuratively alongside them. Batman was the only thing that survived that night, and Bruce Wayne is simply his cover. No one would suspect such a nasty, shallow man to be the masked vigilante seeking justice in Gotham. And now we make our way into the Tim Burton film, so 1989, and Batman Returns in 1992. And so here we see that Batman definitively takes a turn for the dark, and you see that grimy, dank Gotham that you heard about in Batman Year One. And you see that Batman's villains are truly insane. And then we know about Batman. He's a loner, he's very closed off and more than human, but he's also just completely above any human mentally and physically. This man, he dropped 100 feet and then fractured his skull, couldn't communicate with anyone, so he tapped his finger in Morse code to his butler to communicate, to contact a specific surgeon who ended up saving his life. Now, this is all to say that he is incredibly above anyone, as the comics portray him as. And of course, you think he's a loner, but he doesn't do all of this by himself. As Catwoman says, for a man who is a loner, you have an awful lot of strings, and she was referring to him being supported by Alfred, his butler, caretaker, and surgeon, as well as the 4 Robins behind him. And so as we leave the 80s, we go into the 90s. Now this is, there were a couple movies made. They were not the best. We have Batman Forever with Val Kilmer, and that was a bit of a flop.
I loved it.
Yeah. And then we have the Batman and Robin with George Clooney.
Terrible.
We don't talk about that. So, but no, the thing about the 90s that was very remarkable for Batman was Batman the Animated Series. Now, of course, you hear about the criminal vigilante who fights crime in Gotham, but you see that he is truly a giver of empathy to the villains that he fights. He wants to see them rehabilitated. He wants to see them he wants to tell them and let them know that what they're doing can be prevented. And after all, Harvey Dent was a good friend of Bruce Wayne's until he fell from grace as Two-Face, and he simply wanted his friend back. And now, leaving the 90s, we go into the 2000s, and of course, this is home to the action-packed scenes and the new era of the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy. So Christian Bale plays this snarky Bruce Wayne. Batman Begins, transitions to the Playboy in The Dark Knight, and then rises from the depths of hell, and The Dark Knight Rises. Now, we start to see that Batman takes a turn to actually being that careless socialite. And so, to the audience at this point, it doesn't seem like it was an act anymore. It seems more that he was a jealous man trying to win back the affection of the woman that he loves, and his rival, now being Harvey Dent, which is a great departure from the comics, is his rival at the beginning rather than just being a friend of his. And so, as we venture through that whole trilogy, we start seeing this change. Now, we have Batman 2021 with Robert Pattinson, the newest one, and so we start to see that Batman, or Bruce Wayne, really is coming into himself as Batman. It pulls a lot of references from the Long Halloween comic as well as Batman Year One, and you start to see that niche of Batman being the world's greatest detective, putting together these pieces and these riddles. You see that he has this intellect above the police, and he truly wants to help as well as strike fear into the hearts of criminals. And though the criminals do not see him, or he may not be there, they will always fear the shadows where he may prey on them. Now, Batman is a very complex character today. He constantly fights with the darkness and inner turmoil that threatens to break him. But well-known fact about Batman is that he has a moral code where he does not kill people, nor does he use guns, both being results of watching his parents die. And at one point in the Hush comics in 2003, he was on the brink of killing the Joker. And of course, Commissioner Gordon came in to the rescue and told him if Batman wanted to be a murderer, he should have started a long time ago. And so from that point, Batman had to consolidate his anger and throw it out, because if he didn't, he would have killed the Joker. And this is where the storyline really takes place. It takes place in the psychological aspect, which really correlates with the psychological endemic of Gotham. And so not killing the Joker made him realize that he would be no better than anyone in Gotham if he had. And so this is the rivalry that we hear about all the time, the Joker and Batman. So this is what makes him a hero, is that though there is insanity all surrounding him, he always seems to come out on top in the moral hierarchy. And I will leave you with one quote from the man himself, who always pays their taxes, not Batman. Thank you.